This video is part of the September 18th section of this class dealing with the I in geographic information systems, so the information, the attributes. We spent the last few videos really focused on how attributes look within a shapefile, the types of information you can store, integers, floats, text, how to add new information, how to delete, how to calculate it. And this video is going to sort of step back and remove ourselves from an attribute table, treat it by itself, and ask the question, what if I don't have those attributes already within the shapefile? How do I get them to come together so that I can visualize information that I know lines up with geography, but that right now exists in its own standalone table? And this is definitely one of the most powerful concepts in ArcGIS and GIS in general, which is called a join. And it's a simple tool I'm going to show you right now with a little bit of nuance, but it is a simple tool that can be replicated over and over and over again, and is an excellent way to really augment your spatial data. If you're following along in the join folder, I have Philly Census Tracts and I have population data. If you were to drag in the census tracts and open them, as I always suggest, you'd see basically a lot of complex geographic information. Now, some of you, I think, probably have a background in the census and know what a census tract, block group, and all that information is. Those of you that don't, it'll be covered pretty quickly in some of your planning classes. It's fairly fundamental to the work of planning. But I plan to review this as well in a few weeks when we begin to work on where to find data and where to get it, right? Because that's an important thing that you'll do is find demographic data, for instance, on poverty or income or whatnot, and join it into ArcGIS so you can visualize it spatially. But for now, just know that what we're looking at is census tract, right? A census tract is a national, federal, geographic boundary that is used for census tabulations. The census is recorded every 10 years, right? It's a full count of the population of the United States. And the census has a component part, or a sort of a sister, called the American Community Survey, which is similar but more detailed data that gets collected every year, but isn't collected for the whole population. Right? It's collected for a sample, and then some statistics are extrapolated. That's all I'll say for now. Again, when we do the week on actually finding data in the real world and cleaning it and prepping it, there'll be a definite component on finding census data. But the way it's structured, right, is a state, right? Every state has a code. 42 is Pennsylvania. Every county has a code. We're 101, right? And every tract, census tract, has a code. And if you put those together, you'd have a unique ID. Unique, 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 unique. This is a critical word for joins. Every census tract has an ID that is separate from every other census tract. It is unique. There are 384 of these. And it is this factor, the uniqueness, that allows me to execute a join. That uniqueness means that I can find that one-to-one match, where I can take a piece of data that does not exist here but could, connect it, and then visualize it. So that is a critical point, that whenever you are going to join something, you need to find that unique field that you would want to join. Now, what I'm looking at here is just the geography, right? All it shows me is where the census tracts are, and I have something that I suspect is a unique field. What I have here is some population data. Some information on census tracts with related information on the total population, the population white, non-Hispanic, black, non-Hispanic, American Indian non-Hispanic, Asian non-Hispanic, Hawaiian Pacific Islander non-Hispanic, other race non-Hispanic, and then Hispanic Latino. So can understand and visualize sort of the dominant racial and ethnic classes for each census tract and begin to visualize segregation and integration in Philadelphia. This data set actually is something we'll return to a few times throughout this semester just because it's instructive in teaching, I think, a number of different concepts. And it's definitely instructive now in sort of reminding us how to do joins. So this is where I want to join data to, the shapefile. This is where I want to join data from, population. And there definitely looks like there is a solid field, right? I've got GeoID 10. You know, I'm even going to come in here and, you know, well, I was going to highlight it, but I'm feeling even too lazy to highlight it now. So imagine it's highlighted yellow, and imagine this is. But are these two fields identical? They certainly appear so, right? 42010101, 42010101, 10110. I mean, these look exactly the same, but there's a key difference. And that key difference is this is a text, justified to the left. This is a double, justified to the right. We need to figure out how to convert because these won't join to one another. So there's two ways you could do this, right? You could either add a field in Census Tracts or add a field here and just perform a quick calculation. So why don't we do it here in population data? I'll go to add field. I'll name something text ID. I'll make it text. Hit save. And I'm going to grab it at the top here and sort of drag it over so it's closer and sort of next to my field over here. And I'm going to come right here to text ID and I'll go to field calculator. And this is a nifty little trick that you're able to do with ArcGIS and ArcPro. Where I'm going to say, hey, take the values on that you see in ID2. Right, ID2 looks like this. And because it's text, right, I made this text. It's just going to take whatever characters it sees, put them in that quote-unquote text format, and bing, bada, boom, now I have something that matches and that I can join. So I purposely set this up like this because I wanted it to require this step, because this is frequent, right? You may find two fields that look identical, that look like they have matching values, but that there's something missing or something wrong with one of them, and you need to do a step like this to ensure that they match. So now that I know that they will, what I can do, what happened here? There we go. Is I'll come on over here to Census Tracts, and I'm going to right-click it. And one of the many wonderful things I can do with this excellent process called right-click is go to Join. And we'll come up here to Add Join. Now, in a second, to conclude the video, I'm going to briefly show you a related tool here that's called Join Field. Right? Add Join and Join Field, they're cousins to one another. The difference is that what I'm going to do here with Add Join creates a temporary join, meaning that these two have like a fastener that connects them together. They can be analyzed together. But I can also come in and say, by right-clicking, I can come to Join and say, Remove Join after I've done it, and the join will stop. The other one that I'll show you called Join Field, what Join Field allows you to do is actually make the join permanent, right? So it's a tool I'll demonstrate at various points throughout the semester, and again, it'll emulate exactly what I'm going to do. It'll just make the attachment permanent, right? So you'd use that in an instance when you want to sort of mush data sources together and not be able to separate them anymore. So join is pretty easy. Where am I joining to? Well, I'm joining to Census Tracts. What's the unique field, right? That field that has unique values I'm going to use to make the join, it's GeoID. Where am I taking values from? You're taking them from this table called population data. What's the field? The field called text ID that we just created. Come on in and run it. On the surface, it doesn't look like anything has changed. But now when I open and come over, I now know for each census tract not only where they are, but I know the populations. And now I can start using that. I'll run through this quick because we'll have a whole lesson on this next week on how to symbolize data. But now I can come and leverage that in symbology. I can create a similar dot density map that we've created in the past. And I can start bringing things in like white non-Hispanic, for example, and perhaps we'll make that blue. And come in here and choose black non-Hispanic, and perhaps we'll make that green. And come in here and choose Asian non-Hispanic, for example, and maybe we'll make that red. And then come in finally and we'll choose Hispanic Latino and make that purple, so it stands out. And again, now I'm visualizing something that I could not do before when I only had the data like this. Now this map is true. This is one of the most sort of profound things you'll see in Philly. It's called sort of the North Philadelphia segregation. You know, Philly, like any city that was redlined, as we learned, was built around segregation, especially between black and white communities through design of the federal and state governments. But over time, there's also become a new sort of segregation that you tend to see in North Philadelphia, where right around here at Aramingo Avenue, everything east tends to be largely white. Everything between Aramingo and Broad, for the most part, or 9th, tends to be Hispanic. It's actually the second largest concentration of Puerto Ricans in the entire continental United States is in this neighborhood in North Philadelphia. And then everything sort of west of 9th or west of Broad is black. And again, I was able to do this because I had data, something that lived by itself in a table, and I used join to connect it to a spatial piece of information so that I could visualize and analyze it. A powerful concept that we will continually refer to throughout the year.